And moving on, George Albert Omore Magoha was a Kenyan consultant surgeon, an academic administrator, and a technocrat who served as a professor of surgery at Maseno University School of Medicine in Kisumu County, in Nyanza region, since January 2023. Unfortunately, the former education CS George Magoha died at 71 on Tuesday, January 24th in 2023 in Nairobi following a cardiac illness. He was reportedly rushed to the facility after falling ill. Professor Magoha was known as a tough talking and no-nonsense CS during his time at the Education Ministry. Our very own reader, Kering Chebet, prepared the life, times, and achievement of the late former Education CS, George Magoha.
Your Excellency, it is now my most singular duty, and I also like the way you work because somehow we are a bit like the same. Because you just say what you want to say, and everything follows.
The devastating and sudden death of Professor George Albert Omore Magoha comes at a time when he had commissioned a book to document his achievements at the Education Ministry, where he had served for 3 years.
I, George Albert Omore Magoha, having been appointed a cabinet secretary in the government of Kenya.
Accordingly, one of the proposed working titles of the book was Weathering the Storm: How We Manage Education Sector Under COVID.
Don't listen to the politicians. The politicians did not help you to produce your children. We produced our children with our own blood. Let the politician keep his own children at home. For us, all our children are going to go back to school. And I'm not the type who usually pleads, but this time let me plead with them.
He had put together all the notes, and the writing was to commence soon after burying his younger brother, Professor Richard Magoha, who died in the US and was to be buried this coming weekend.
In order to change the mindset of our people, that success is not by going to the university. What are you going to do? What recommendations are you going to give to government to actualize what they already started anyway, because they expanded the sector and they are giving help loans to the sector, and you are taking me to an area I didn't want to mention, but let me just say that I hope you are not even thinking of combining University Funding Board with help, because help goes beyond universities.
The book was to be a sequel to the earlier titled Tower of Transformational Leadership, published by the East African Educational Publishers publication in 2017, which chronicled his journey from Game to Starehe Boys Center and to Nigeria, where he studied medicine, and later to the University of Nairobi, where he rose from assistant lecturer to vice chancellor.
I have always believed, when I was the vice chancellor, that my best advisors were the ones who told me things I didn't want to hear. So when I'm sleeping and I wake up at 4 o'clock and I reflect, then I find that is the way I'm going to go. When people tell you, yes sir, this is those are stupid idiots, because when the brain is thinking, then you must differ, isn't it?
A professor of medicine, Magoha arguably goes down as one of the most effective education ministers of all time.
First of all, mimi ni sura mbaya. Lakini hiyo sura yangu mbaya mimi napenda zaidi. Do you get the point? Now there is a plastic surgery that is good for the surgeon, and I'm sure I have plastic surgeons here who will tell you that there are aspects of plastic surgery that are therapeutic. If you look at, now that he's dead, I can talk about Michael Jackson. He was more beautiful before he did all that plastic surgery. So with my big nose, I think I'm very, very, hata kama ni sura mbaya, I love my...
He took the Education Ministry at a time when the sector was going through a rapid and tumultuous reforms.
I, as a cabinet secretary, cannot cane a child. Who do you think you are as an ordinary teacher to cane somebody's child like that.
Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who had been education minister before him, had tapped him in 2016 to chair the Kenya National Examinations Council (NEC) to clamp down on runaway exam cheating that had made Kenya a laughingstock among the Committee of Nations. He did so with vigor and fervor.
For our children, their being in school is going to be permanent, and that we should be very, very careful just changing something because you don't like the person who initiated it. I think life is much bigger than that. Whoever becomes CS education, if he's a full-blooded Kenyan and not a thief, his job would be to make sure that another 10,000 classrooms are built.
2 years later, after Dr. Matiang'i had moved to Interior Ministry, former President Uhuru Kenyatta brought in Professor Magoha to continue with the former's sterling performance at the ministry, and that paid off.
Especially this issue of 100% transition, ensuring that we manage the resources that we have in a proper and good manner, assuring ourselves that we are able to implement the new curriculum as we have worked, and you have been part and parcel of that whole process, so it is nothing new again to you, it is something you understand, and I'm really counting on you being able to work together with your colleagues and myself to ensure that we deliver to the people of Kenya.
At the Ministry of Education, his first agenda was to set up a task force to advise on the implementation of CBC that was hurtling from one crisis to another due to lack of decisive leadership. The task force, chaired by Kenyatta University then Deputy Vice Chancellor Professor Fatuma Shege, completed its work and handed over the report to President Uhuru Kenyatta in February 2022. The report provided guidelines on CBC implementation and remains a reference point for the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms that was appointed late last year by President William Ruto.
When you are doing an experiment, you don't start doing an experiment whose answer you already know. And I want to charge, the second charge I'm charging the members of the task, because I know that they are eminent scholars and stakeholders. In order to assist His Excellency the President in doing what he has to do, more specifically with the basic education sector, can we go into the unknown, get results, analyze them, and take them to him? Don't start from an answered point of view, where now you are working from what you want to bring to him.
In his almost last appearance, former Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Omore Magoha showered President William Ruto with praises on the implementation of CBC.
I also want to thank His Excellency the President for having pronounced himself that it is better to focus on the child. And my first charge to the members of the committee is that for whatever decisions that you are going to make, the constant shall be the child.
Speaking on October 12, 2022, during a 3-day orientation into the currents and essentials of education reform initiatives held at the Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology in Africa in Nairobi, the late CS described Ruto as a leader always ready to listen and implement. He lauded the head of state for ensuring that those fighting the competency-based curriculum CBC did not win.
Ladies and gentlemen, the third thing I want to say about President William Samoei, President William, you can understand why, because the other one was there for 24 years. William Samoei Arap Ruto, the short time I have worked with him and my assessment of him without prejudice is that he is somebody who listens and takes views, including those he didn't want to hear. And I'm telling you this here because I'm a very strange person. I add no political value to anybody. I am a thoroughbred technocrat. My value is in service and profession. So I'm free to talk the way I talk, because I have no political value to add. I only add the work and the efficiency and the delivery. So since the president is somebody who is going to, and he's also an academic, I was involved with him when he was doing his master's degree, and he went further and did PhD. So we are not writing a report to somebody who went to Kanyanyaini Primary School.
On January 17th, Magoha landed a job at Maseno University in Kisumu County as the professor of surgery at the School of Medicine.
Because the brain power, Your Excellency, Deputy President, the brain, if you want your brain to sleep, it will sleep. If you want your brain to think so that you can add value to our children.
Magoha, a urologist by specialization, served as the chairperson of the Kenya Association of Urological Surgeons from 1997 to 2013. He undertook his primary education in Yala, Siaya County and Nairobi before joining Starehe Boys Center and Strathmore College for his high school education.
When I was about to sit for common entrance examination in 1963, are we together? I was in a place called Gina Primary School. I saw the resources we had there. So when I came to Standard 5 in Nairobi at Dr. David Livingstone, it was like I was in heaven. That is not going to change. Stop pretending. Just make sure that, and I passed from that bush. So my job is to ensure that a child in the remotest part of this country is not disadvantaged.
He then proceeded to the University of Lagos in Nigeria, where he studied medicine. He furthered his studies in surgery and urology at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, University College Hospital, Ibadan, Royal College to Surgeons, Dublin, Ireland, and Royal Postgraduate Medical School, Hammersmith Hospital, London Department of Urology. Professor Magoha established his career in surgery at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital as an intern and rose to the position of senior resident and clinical lecturer in surgery. He also served as a lecturer in the same hospital and as a consultant surgeon in various leading hospitals in Lagos, Nigeria. Professor Magoha joined the University of Nairobi as a lecturer in urological surgery in 1988 and rose through the ranks to become a full professor of surgery in 2000. He served in various administrative positions at the university, rising from the chairperson of the academic department of surgery in 1999, dean of the School of Medicine, principal of the College of Health Sciences, deputy vice chancellor in charge of the administration and finance to vice chancellor in January 2005. He is actively involved in research in male erectile dysfunction, prostate, testicular and penile cancer, circumcision and HIV and AIDS. The surgery.
How can a Starehe boy be arrogant? We were trained to be servant leaders, trained to be leaders by example. That's why you see me everywhere. So I'm telling you this so that you don't listen to any other description of Magoha, son of Magoha, that you may hear from somewhere else.
The surgery professor is married to Dr. Barbara Magoha, with whom they have a son, Dr. Michael Magoha.
The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, whom I can now say is a good friend of mine after a sizable time spent with him.
The former education CS George Albert Omore Magoha breathed his last on Tuesday, January 24th, after suffering a cardiac arrest. According to the family, the former University of Nairobi Vice Chancellor passed away while receiving treatment at the Nairobi hospital.
At around 3 o'clock today, I got a phone call from the wife that she needed me urgently. I was in a clinic at the Kenyatta National Hospital. I was seeing a patient and I called a colleague to take over. I rushed to my car, and as I was driving away from Kenyatta about 4 kilometers, she called again and asked me whether I had a blood pressure machine. I told I would get one. I rushed back to my clinic, got a blood pressure machine. As I was about 4 kilometers to the home, she SMS and asked me whether I could get an ambulance.
The hospital's chief executive officer James Nyamungo confirmed the demise, stating that Magoha breathed his last shortly after arriving at the facility.
There was a traffic jam. They drove right to the home. At the gate, I met some attendants who rushed me in. I met the son at the door, who rushed me straight to where he was. He was seated actually. He greeted me and said, "Oh, you have come." Then I said to take the blood pressure. It was not recording. At that time, he slipped off from his sitting position.
President William Ruto led the nation in eulogizing former education CS. In a statement to newsrooms on Tuesday, the president mourned Magoha as a towering giant and one who stood tall in matters of education. The head of state said the country had lost a gifted, unique, distinguished and great servant of Kenya. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta eulogized Magoha as a celebrated academic who leaves behind a strong legacy of public service. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said, and I quote, "I have learned of the demise of Professor George Magoha with great shock. Known for his independence of mind and fearlessness, Professor Magoha was an accomplished professional who served Kenya with zeal, as witnessed when he served as the CS for Education and other posts held earlier." On his part, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga mourned him as a transformational leader, illustrious scholar, dedicated public servant, and distinguished medical doctor who left an indelible mark in the country's education system. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula said Magoha's death was a big loss and a blow to the education sector. On his part, Senate Speaker Amason Kingi said, and I quote, "The demise of Professor George Magoha, the former education CS, a scholar and a medic of outstanding repute, has left us all in deep shock. Words cannot express our collective heartbreak as a nation. I condole with his family and Kenyans at large following this loss."
I want to see whether you are bold enough, because the universities are dying because they are underfunded and they are thoroughly fragmented.
His sudden demise is a major blow to the education sector, universities and the medical fraternity. The towering Magoha has left behind a towering legacy. From Maisha Television, we send our condolences to the family. Rest in peace, Professor George Albert Omore Magoha. For Masomo News Live, I'm Rida Kering Chebet.
All right, thank you.